Hello everyone, welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and activate the notification bell. Your support fuels my continued efforts. In our previous episode, we discussed how the Spectre Lord Feldway, in his bid to eliminate Masayuki within the labyrinth, dispatched 4 super-awakened class angels, leaving Ramiris in a state of despair within the maze. Fortunately, the timely awakening and evolution of Geld and Kamara brought a glimmer of hope to the dire situation. Yet, Feldway's schemes were far from over, suggesting that everything thus far might have been merely a feint. In this episode, we will delve into the betrayals by Dino and Chloe. Let's get started. Inside the command center, the atmosphere shifted from tension to relief with the awakening of Barrier Lord Geld and Chimera Lord Kamara, as everyone reveled in the joy of overcoming the crisis. Seizing this opportune moment, Demon Lord Dino stood up. Despite his reluctance, he decided to fulfill a task entrusted by an acquaintance from long ago, compelled by an irresistible urge that left him no choice but to act. However, this action did not go unnoticed by Shinji, who had been observing Dino with confusion amidst the general relaxation. The moment Shinji voiced his observation, Dino's attempt to grab Ramiris was thwarted by Beretta. Beretta demanded to know Dino's intentions. Instantaneously, those around Dino fell into a deep slumber, clearly affected by Dino's manipulation. Dino lamented the disruption of his plan, which he had intended to execute under the guise of general inattention. Sighing, Dino then turned to Beretta with a squinting gaze. Meanwhile, Ramiris's tree fairy subordinates had encircled Dino, although Ramiris herself struggled to grasp the unfolding events, alternating her gaze between Beretta and Dino in an effort to understand. Ignoring the encirclement, Dino looked at Ramiris, requesting her cooperation to avoid needless sacrifices and assured her of no harm, promising to treat her well. Ramiris finally realized that Dino had betrayed them and confronted him about his motives, expressing that Rimuru would never forgive him upon his return. Dino acknowledged her prediction but indicated that the situation was far more complex. He revealed his true identity, as one of the 7 angels of origin created by the Star King Dragon and the Watcher of the Central World. With this revelation, the entire roster of the 7 angels of origin created by the Star King Dragon was disclosed. Feldway, Zelario, Abara, and Chronoa had gone to Otherworld to monitor the evil god Ivarage, while Dino, along with Gracia and Pico, remained in the Central World to maintain its balance as watchers. Ramiris was shocked, having always considered Dino as just another useless demon lord like herself, not realizing his true significance as a figure personally named by Veldanava. Although Ramiris herself was named by Veldanava, her repeated reincarnations had made her forget much of her past. After Veldanava's death, Dino, Gracia, and Pico became fallen angels due to their loss of purpose, and together with Feldway's group, who evolved into mystic angels in Otherworld, none of the original 7 angels of origin remained unchanged. Ramiris had many more questions, but Dino, growing impatient, directly requested her cooperation. He assured her that he did not wish to harm Ramiris and promised to treat her well, proposing that their collaboration could prevent unnecessary sacrifices and avoid the need to destroy the labyrinth. Ramiris, however, was more concerned about who was commanding Dino, correctly deducing that it was Feldway, the chief of the 7 angels of origin, rather than Guy. Indeed, Feldway's plan to conquer the labyrinth had dual purposes: assassinate Masayuki and demolish the labyrinth itself. Capturing Ramiris was crucial for the invasion's success, and Dino was merely acting on Feldway's orders. Despite parting ways with Feldway long ago, the old hierarchy persisted, making Feldway the commanding force behind the attack on the labyrinth, involving members of the 7 angels of origin in the assault. Ramiris noisily urged Dino to defy Feldway's commands and return to her side. Dino felt a twinge of comfort from such an unreasonable demand, seeing the Monster Federation as his ideal residence where he needed to do nothing and could enjoy delicious food. Yet Dino harbored his own difficulties, not understanding why he couldn't resist Feldway's orders. Ramiris declared she, as one of the Octogram Demon Lords, would steadfastly defend the labyrinth until Rimura's return, refusing to surrender. Thus, negotiations failed, and battle commenced. Provoked, Ramiris desperately shouted for Beretta to eliminate Dino. Beretta stepped forward, readying himself. Dino unsheathed a great sword named Huga from nowhere, a mythical weapon with an existence points reaching 1 million. Without further words, Dino lifted Huga above his head, like a swift gale, charged at Beretta. Beretta conjured a dark firewall with a wave of his hands, intending to encircle Dino. Yet Dino, undeterred, plunged into the ghost fire, disappearing momentarily only to reveal it was merely an afterimage. Dino had already closed in on Beretta's side. Any other would have panicked, but Beretta coolly dodged with minimal movement. Although unarmed, as a magisteel golem crafted by Rimuru and evolved into a being whose entire body was a legendary weapon, Beretta was one of the hardest substances in the labyrinth. Still, he dared not directly block Dino's attack. As Dino wielded Huga, his EP value surged from 400,000 to 2 million, magnified further to 3 million by the mythic sword. Despite missing his initial strike, Dino swiftly adjusted for a horizontal slash. Beretta dodged and, exploiting a gap, switched his unique skill reverser to Sacred Attribute, launching a radiant attack at Dino. Dino managed to block but sustained minor injuries. Despite the overwhelming power disparity, Beretta's efforts inflicted minor damage, hoping cumulative hits might turn the tide. After several exchanges, the battle astonishingly stalemated. Dino's attacks never landed, seemingly suppressed by Beretta. Yet, a single hit from Huga could decisively cut through Beretta, indicating the fragile balance of power. Aware of this, Beretta fought to buy time, knowing the labyrinth's inhabitants' safety hinged on Ramiris's presence. Yet the fight wouldn't remain in equilibrium forever. Dino had restrained himself to avoid harming Ramiris, abstaining from wide-scale lethal abilities. However, after a prolonged incantation in secrecy, Dino was ready to shift the battle's course. Dino employed his fallen hypno skill, a non-lethal, wide-ranging debilitation ability from his unique skill sloth, putting all living beings into an inescapable slumber unless they possessed an ultimate skill. He harbored no intention of harming anyone here. To him, Ramiris and the others were long-standing companions he truly did not wish to betray. However, Feldway's commands were absolute and irresistible. As Beretta gradually collapsed, Dino muttered promises to persuade Feldway to spare the inhabitants. He reached out to grasp the now slumbering Ramiris, but was halted by a chilling voice. The speaker was the insect queen Apito from the labyrinth, who had awakened from her evolutionary slumber. Seeing Apito's arrival, Beretta, fighting the encroaching sleep, mustered his last ounce of strength to urge Apito to destroy his core. Understanding the request, Apito promptly killed Beretta with her venomous sting. Beretta's body dissipated into light, vanishing into the air. This action was strategic. Beretta's resurrection would be immediate, negating all adverse effects inflicted on him, allowing for his return to battle in less than a minute. In that interval, Apito would confront Dino. Dino was annoyed by the complications, loathing the hassle despite his inherent laziness. Although the evolved Apito was no match for Dino, her intelligence prevented her from engaging him head-on. As an insectoid specialized in speed, Apito was thoroughly implementing more of a hit-and-run tactic. Apito's interference meant Dino couldn't easily abduct Ramiris. With the prospect of Beretta's imminent return, completing his mission would only become more challenging. For Dino, the most prudent course of action was to deploy Fallen Hypno again, ensuring both Apito and Beretta succumbed to sleep simultaneously. So, Dino calmed down, as if stepping out of the fight, and began to silently chant his skill, his consciousness drifting to other battlefields. However, it was Feldway's urging that snapped Dino's attention back, indicating he was about to make his move and demanded Dino to hurry up and complete his mission. Dino was internally resistant. Firstly, he was inherently lazy, and secondly, he bore no grudge against Apito or Beretta, even holding a fondness for them. This made the command particularly irksome to Dino, but it was an order he couldn't defy. Reluctantly, Dino decided to show some of his true power. The focus shifted to Feldway, who had been covertly monitoring the various battlefields. After instructing Dino, he turned his gaze toward one of the three mystic admiral leaders, Chronoa. Feldway then harbored a murderous intent. In his eyes, Chronoa was a fool. An enemy that could have been easily defeated had escaped right under Chronoa's watch, and Chronoa completely missed the fact that Masayuki had been swapped, engaging with the fake Masayuki impersonated by Jiwoo like an idiot, utterly disgracing the name of the three mystic admiral leaders. After forcing himself to calm down, Feldway decided to take matters into his own hands and deal with Masayuki directly. Meanwhile, Masayuki, on the run, felt extremely guilty. He couldn't bear the thought of escaping alone. Although he was aware of the dangers of being captured by the enemy and feared death, the thought of his companions suffering because of him was unbearable. He would never forgive himself if they were harmed for his sake. Thus, Masayuki sincerely expressed to Bernie his desire to return and fight alongside his companions. He admitted that he had been afraid to reveal his true strength and hesitant to speak his heart to his companions, but seeing everyone fighting so desperately for him, he no longer wanted to be seen as a coward. Masayuki voiced his heart. In that moment, the voice of the world resonated, acknowledging the hero's courage to not flee, thereby augmenting his unique skill, the Chosen One, with a new ability, Hero's Guide. A wave of nostalgia welled up from within, and Masayuki gradually understood his potential. At this point, all abilities of the Chosen One were unlocked, including the intimidating Hero's Haki, Hero's Blessing and Hero's Charisma that bring luck and courage to companions, the vague but always positive Hero's Action, and the newly acquired hidden skill, Hero's Guide, capable of guiding the souls of the deceased to become a beacon for heroes. Realizing this new skill was related to the departed souls, Masayuki sighed silently. If it presupposed the death of companions, then such a skill was better off declined. Masayuki lamented over gaining another seemingly useless skill, unaware of its potential to turn the tide at a critical future moment. Subsequently, Bernie agreed with Masayuki. The two shared a wry smile, preparing to return the way they came. Just then, Feldway made his move, completely disregarding Bernie as to him. It was merely a matter of a single strike. However, Bernie would be a hindrance in taking Masayuki away. Thus, concealing his presence completely, Feldway drew his sword aiming to decapitate Bernie. But at that moment, a crisp sound rang out as an unexpected rapier blocked Feldway's attack. Controlling his surprise, Feldway looked ahead at the masked girl standing before him, clad in white-toned mythic gear, the Holy Spirit armament, wielding a mythic weapon in her hands. It was Chloe, now grown up. Yet, controlling this body was Chronoa, who had achieved complete synchronization with Chloe's consciousness, now a cold, calculating battle machine. After a brief introduction, the two commenced their battle. No sooner had they spoken, Feldway and Chronoa vanished, turning into intertwining red and white streaks of light. The clash of their swords echoed, their sword energies fully enveloping the blades, such that even the fiercest collisions produced no shockwave. Their exchange accelerated, with a dozen collisions happening in mere seconds, yet to the onlookers, only their sounds were heard, not their forms. Realizing their presence was futile, Bernie and Masayuki didn't waste Chronoa's goodwill and swiftly exited the battlefield. As the clash between the two seemed to continue indefinitely, Feldway discerned something amidst their repeated collisions. Overjoyed, he suddenly exclaimed that Veldanava-sama indeed blessed him with victory. Chronoa looked baffled, while Feldway declared that Chronoa would soon become his companion. Feldway had discovered Chronoa possessed one of the angelic skills, Lord of Hope, and as a vessel for Manus Michael, Feldway could perfectly utilize Lord of Justice. This meant Feldway could employ Lord of Justice's strongest ability, Ultimate Dominion, which allows absolute dominion over all bearers of angelic ultimate skills. In our episode 26, Chloe had acquired the ultimate skill, Lord of Hope, from the legacy of the hero Grand Bell, a skill meant to be a divine blessing but now turned into an oath of betrayal. Under the sway of absolute dominion, Chronoa struggled in vain, but within the hierarchy of power, her efforts were futile. Moments later, Chronoa kneeled, removing her mask to reveal her charming face, yet her words were cold. She introduced herself as Serial and requested tasks from Feldway-sama. As Feldway secured another powerful ally while suppressing resistance across the labyrinth, he couldn't help but feel assured of his victory, leading to a grave mistake. Feldway ordered Serial to assist Chronoa in eliminating Masayuki, and then excused himself to attend to matters on the surface, thus leaving the labyrinth. Alright, that's all for this video. As the reincarnation of Rudra, Masayuki's path to the pinnacle is about to unfold. In our next episode, we'll witness the unique way Masayuki's skills awaken. Unlike others who strive for ultimate skills, Masayuki's method is distinctly peculiar. Feldway is set to make an appearance, dramatically turning the tide at a critical moment to save Masayuki and the Imperial Army. The legendary life of Masayuki officially begins from next episode. It is one of my favorite parts of the novel. The next story is both interesting and exciting, so don't miss it. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you in the next one.